Today's episode of the How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast is powered by FinClub and their artificially intelligent stock picks. With nearly 90% accuracy for the first half of the year, you'd be crazy not to try FinClub stock picks while you can. I mean, before they get bought out by one of the big Wall Street banks, because their technology really is that good. So head on over to tryfinclub.com to get nearly $1,500 in bonuses just for starting your free 2-week trial. So join the club, the Fin Club, to get nearly $1,500 in bonuses just for starting your free 2-week trial at tryfinclub.com. That's tryfinclub.com. Today on the podcast, we have a special guest, Jake Wujastic of Trendspider, and we're going to be talking about the new volume-weighted candle raindrop chart that they have on the Trendspider platform. Hey Jake, thanks so much for coming on the show today. This is the How to Trade Stocks and Options podcast, brought to you by 10MinuteStockTrader.com, where we give you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you trade faster and trade smarter. And here's your host, voted one of the top 100 people in finance by Redwood Media Group, founder and head trader of 10MinuteStockTrader.com, Christopher Uhl.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, so this is Jake's second time to be on, and actually, no, I think it's more than that, but second time in person. And what we're going to talk about today is their new, their really tricky new candlestick chart called the raindrops. And Jake's going to explain a lot more about it in a minute and really show how it's volume weighted. And it's really clever. I mean, it's the first time I've seen anything like this. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, but nobody else is doing this out in the industry, right?
This is the only platform you can get them on. So
perfect. Exactly.
To the platform.
So if you are interested in Trendspider, make sure to go check out their platform, trendspider.com. And whenever you sign up, use the code 10minute, 10MINUTE, and you'll get 20% off your entire first year on the Trendspider platform. So make sure you check them out and use that code there. So Jake, do me a favor real quick. Let's introduce who you are. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and about Trendspider, and then let's get straight into the charts and see what this is.
Yes, so my name is Jake Wujastic. I've been on the team with Trendspider now for almost a year and a half. So I'm one of the founding members and came on when we really started to go to market about 18 months ago or so. And so my background is I've been trading since I was 12 years old. I wouldn't necessarily say, trading like I am today or doing charts like I am today, but I did start dabbling in the market when I was in 8th grade, and my dad just wanted me to learn about it. And it's really ironic because he hates the stock market, but at some reason he wanted me to learn about it. And, like anybody who generally starts off, especially if you're younger, you're probably going to maybe make some mistakes, blew up that account, which was fine. I learned some great lessons there. But really I started to also trade in the financial crisis. And so that was when I was in high school, and I started to look at charts more, look at like technical analysis more. And then when I went to college, that's when I really started to dig into like, what is the RSI? What does that even mean? And started doing some research on it, and then applied my economics background that I eventually got my degree in, and started to realize how supply and demand and all of these different microeconomic variables move price in the stock market. And so it really opened my eyes a lot. And so after that, I worked for a couple startups. And then did some blogging on my own, and found Dan through that, who's our founder. And ever since, we've just been trying to make the best product out there. So it's been a wild ride, but it's really cool to be part of a startup where you constantly can get feedback about the product and just make the best product possible.
Yeah, that's very cool. In fact, I'd love to interject on your story there about having your dad tell you to go learn about stocks and everything. My father-in-law, before he passed away, one of the things that he told me was, you want to make more money, you get closer to the money. The closer you get, the more you're going to make. And I was like, that's pretty profound. He was a man of humble means, but he certainly knew a couple things about wisdom of the world. So totally agree with you there. So Jake, tell us about these raindrop charts, right? To me, I'm looking at the screen here, and if the podcast audience out there wants to get a chance to visually see it for themselves, make sure you go to youtube.com/10minute stock trader, or just go into YouTube, type in 10-minute stock trader. You're going to find me, you're going to find Jake, you're going to find all the podcast episodes, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. I need a few more of those. But make sure you check this one out today, because this is obviously a visual episode here. Not to drive you away from the podcast experience, but you're definitely going to want to see this in person, see what I'm talking about here. Because when you pull up the chart, when you look at this screen, Jake, all I see is a bunch of squiggly lines. Like, what in the world does this even mean?
Well, you're right. They are squiggly lines. So, these different squiggly lines essentially represent volume profile on a specific time period and the price range of that time period. So you can see here, we're breaking out of this wedge, but it's like, what does this mean? I'm going to go to a diagram here and explain it a little bit, and then we'll go back to the charts. But what you have here is you have a left side of the candle and a right side. The left side represents the first half of the day, the first half of the 30 minutes, whatever time frame you're looking at. And then the second half, the right side, represents essentially the second half of the day or second half of the 30-minute candle, whatever you're looking at. And what you can see here is you can see a bar and then another bar. This represents the VWAP for the first half of the period, and this represents the VWAP for the second half of the period. The squiggly lines, which, if you didn't have these squiggly lines, it would look very much like just a bar, a bar chart. But what you have is you have the volume profile overlaid on this price range. So you can see during the first half of the period that all of the volume was focused at the bottom of this range. As we went into the second half of the period, you can see that volume is starting to move up. The volume is actually driving the price up, showing that demand is outpacing supply. And you know this because there's no volume profile on the left-hand side. So we know all of this volume is creating new highs, and that's very bullish for this particular time period. In theory, anything can happen. This isn't advice or anything like that. I'm not licensed or anything. But based on our research, this type of move generally shows buyers are in control. And I'll show you an example of that on SPY and a couple other tickers that have shown this type of volume flow, and then we've had a further move up. So the function of the color is based on where the second half of the period's VWAP is. In this case, you can see the right side is higher than the left side, so that's green. In this case, this is blue when both sides are equal to each other within 2% or less. And then the bearish raindrop is when you have the second half of the period's VWAP lower than the first half. So in this case, you can see it's kind of opposite what we just looked at. You can see the volume flowing into the second half of the period, creating new lows in price. So it's a very interesting way to visualize how volume is flowing throughout whatever time period you're looking at. In this case, this is SPY, and we can see here a few different things. So the last couple days, this is today's candle, and this candle, it's only 17 minutes into the day. So this actually for the first 10 minutes. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to today's raindrop quite yet. There's not enough time that's gone by. But we can look at the last 2 days raindrop here. And what you can see is essentially on August 28th, you can see this big bulge of volume that's forming at the top of the range here. So during the first half of the period, you can see that, all of this volume was allocated across the entire range. And then during the second half of the period, you can see that this volume is really focused at the top, creating almost like a balloon looking candle. And then what you have after that is you've got a strong continuation candle to the upside, and you actually have this breakout here through this symmetrical triangle. And you can see even yesterday, we had the same type of thing where a lot of that volume was focused at the top of the range. And then we have that continuation up, and we're finding resistance where we found it, the last few times this August. So that's in a nutshell how it works. It's showing you how that volume is flowing throughout the first and the second half of the period, where that volume is aggregating. So it's a really cool example of using price action and volume without just using the volume bars. If we turn on the volume here, yesterday's volume that's not going to tell us anything, because it's no different than the last couple days before that. So what we really saw was where that volume was focused, and that's what's really important when you're looking at these raindrops, is kind of visualizing how that works. A cool example of this is my favorite case study to do, if you will, is on the Qs back in October to December. So we have this trend line from October, starting on October 17th, and then we connected the first data point here on November 7th, extended that line. We've got another one that forms right after, and then we've got this guy that tries to pop out of this resistance trend line. And the cool thing about this is you can see that during the first half of the period, there was barely any volume that really was above this trend line. There wasn't a lot of volume supporting the push above this line. And then during the second half of the period, you can see that literally there was no volume above this line. All of the volume was aggregating at the bottom of this range, and then you've got your continuation down the next day. Now compare that to the candle that actually broke out, and you can see something very different here. You can see that when we did break out of this trend line during the second half of the period, there's a big blob of volume here above this line. So you can see, and this is a really cool example, if we split the screen and go to a hollow candle, we can't tell anything about the volume in that wick.
Oh wow. Yeah, that is very different. That totally changes the picture there. Huh.
So, okay, sure.
Wow, interesting.
We closed right above this line, but, we don't know, was this just a small blip in volume that pushed this up? No, it was actually a pretty strong move. And we know that this volume was pushing price up to new highs during the second half of the period, showing buyers were definitely in control. So
wow.
It's a really cool kind of visualization of where that volume is aggregating. And it's important when you're looking at a breakout like this, where you've got this volume telling us that there was a lot of volume above that line. Buyers were definitely in control at this point. You look at the candle here, and you can confirm, because you've got this really ugly raindrop, but then you've got this hanging man candle here as well that you can see kind of confirming the ugliness of this. So
wow, that is super, super interesting. Being able to compare these side by side, I mean, it really tells a more full picture, right? It tells you the bigger story than just price up and down, and then volume as a separate chart at the bottom. Very interesting.
Yep, and that's one of our favorite things to do right now, is compare like a day-to-day raindrop versus the daily candle or hollow candle. This is the hollow candle I have up. But it's cool because you can say, oh wow, there's a green raindrop, but there's a red candle. And so you can almost look at these divergences where you've got, these candles that necessarily don't agree with each other. And it's really cool to see what happens after that, the discrepancies that occur. One thing that I did want to mention as well, though, the blue raindrop. I think this deserves some attention as well. Let's just go to Netflix, and I want to, let everybody know these definitely will be most useful on something with higher volume, just because the volume is important with raindrops, and you want to have something that's very liquid. If you're trading something that's not that liquid, It may, the volume, and the volume's very low. It just may make the candle look weird. So
Okay, you've got a good point there. In fact, because I know a lot of people, especially like penny stock traders and things like that, they look for low float stocks. Low
yeah,
float meaning that there's not a lot of shares outstanding. So if Jake's out there buying 10 shares, he could have a decently dramatic move in the price based on just picking up those 10 shares. So
yeah.
to me, that sounds like this would be even more useful. But you're saying that because there's not enough share movement going on?
Well, in those times, well, see and I've traded penny stocks since I was younger. That's kind of, I was in high school. I'm like, oh, well, naturally the penny stock is cheaper, so that's what I'll trade. And so that's kind of how I started trading them. But I like penny stocks because you can see the volume flow a lot easier. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if you're going through those like doldrum periods where you literally have no volume at all, it will just kind of make the raindrop look a little funky just because the lack of liquidity. But
Okay.
there's still research to be done on that. We've mostly done the research on these higher liquid stocks such as Netflix.
Sure.
For these, that's what we've really focused on.
Yeah.
What's cool about this is the blue raindrops. So the blue raindrops are really a symbol of volatility possibly coming. So they're not always like a buy or a sell signal. Nothing on the platform is in any form of that. It's a way to complement your analysis rather than replace it. And so, one of the things we found with these blue raindrops is the fact that they are very indicative a lot, especially on these FANG stocks, of volatility. So if we go to the strategy tester, which is just the ability to back test a specific condition without having to code anything in this case, let's just look for a blue raindrop. What we do here is, I'll just delete this and kind of go from step one. You go to add a parameter, and we have to make sure first we're on the right chart. So we're on the raindrop chart, we're on the daily, and then you can choose the depth at which we want to test this. Do we want to just back test what's on the chart, or do we want to actually back test all the way back to 7,000 candles if there's enough data for a particular stock?
Yeah.
So let's just do the chart here, and you can go and then add a parameter. The condition is simply a candlestick pattern that you're looking for, and you can just type in, we call this a raindrop doji rather than a blue raindrop in the system.
Okay.
It's a raindrop dash doji, and so click that, and then you can test this over a certain amount of time. So in this case, we'll just do after 10 candles, what is the return when a blue raindrop is formed? We can test that, quickly get a return here. So the average return is 1.42% over the last year of data, with 13 positions being happening. And you can actually see that on the chart, every single one.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see how, here's our first entry. Our exit says negative 2.21%. Well, that's true because after 10 days, that's the return. But if you wanted to get the volatility, you wanted to get the max drawdown, the max gain, you wanted to capture this 2-day drop of 7%, you can go to download CSV, and that's going to give you all those statistics that you can start, making a spreadsheet with.
Sure. And actually, this is one of my favorite things about the Trendspider platform. If you haven't already checked it out, is the ability to backtest in the chart. Steve Burns and we have been talking about this, and he said, he's a huge backtester, and that's one of the things that got me hooked on Trendspider was, hey, anything you want to know, you just put it in your parameters down at the bottom, click run. You can do short period, intermediate period, or a long-term period. And you can base that on any time frame as well, right, Jake? Like 30-minute, 4-hour day, right?
Yep.
Yeah, anything like that. And you can actually backtest right there on the screen anything you're looking for. So that's something that I use every time I'm in Trendspider is, let's see what happens if I do this. Let's see what happens if I do that. So definitely one of the reasons that I like to use it.
Yeah, and the cool thing is we're actually going to make this more robust, where you'll be able to run a back test against, let's say, all the FANG stocks, and you'll be able to see which stock the blue raindrop works best on. What stock does the blue raindrop explain the most, or the for the statistics guys out there, what's the R squared, or the correlation coefficient of this raindrop? And so we're really looking to further this in the stat side of things, and we're really excited for what's to come on that side of it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think this is awesome.
So that's how you can utilize these on a day-to-day basis. You can look at the volume flow when you're looking at a green or a red candle. You can look at the blue raindrops for volatility possibly coming in. And one thing that I also wanted to touch on was the alerts here. So we have the IWM here, the Russell 2000. And what I've done is created a channel here, just kind of this downward sloping channel, and I put an alert on each side. And so what's cool about this is today I actually got an alert because I increased my sensitivity around this line. So I didn't have to be alerted when the price actually touched this line. What I was able to do, and I'll just delete this, but you can see how it says touch at 5 minutes. That means the first 5 minutes of today, when the first 5 minute candle closed in this area, I got the alert. So right when we were on, this, I got a text message saying this tested this area. You may want to look at the chart. So it's really cool because if we remove this, right now you've only got this general line. What you can do is you can increase or decrease the area that you want to be alerted around this line. So you can actually just be alerted when the price touches the exact line. But a lot of the time that's not realistic, especially, this time. But if you increase the sensitivity here, you would have been able to capture these areas pretty easily. So
man, that is clever. So you don't have to say, tell me when it's at 125 or greater. You can say, give me ballpark 125, something like that.
Yeah, because
that is cool.
Alert me within 66 cents of this line. Because a lot of the time it's just not always going to get there.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the saying, drawing trend lines with a highlighter or a crayon is probably the better way to do it than a very fine pencil. It's just there's not perfection in the market. There's always going to be slight inefficiencies, whether that's a market order went through or whatever the case is that creates some of these wicks. They're not always going to test the exact line, and that's where you can use this margin of error and really capture some of that volatility.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, thanks for showing us that, Jake. I mean, you've covered a lot here. We talked about the raindrop charts. We've talked about back testing right on the screen, and now we're talking about the alerts that you can get with any margin of error that you want to there, as far as growing or shrinking that alert setting there. So that is really cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the last thing I wanted to mention or touch on was the multi time frame analysis. And so, when we started just tanking back in the day, I personally used the EMA 50 and the SMA 20 just as kind of a two together, kind of as a pair. And you'll see here how the price just broke down this very quickly, broke down this very quickly. So, a lot of people then go the top-down approach where you're looking at the longer-term time frames. And so what I can do here is literally just type, or not even type, click MTFA. That adds a secondary time frame. And you can see I can control and add the weekly EMA 50 or the weekly SMA 20.
Oh, wow.
So then I click here. We see that after the price broke through these, this is naturally where the price found support. However, we gap down the next day. Well, the next one I use is the EMA 50 from the weekly. Turn that on, and this is where we found support. So without me having to go and open multiple charts, I can literally just overlay the weekly EMA and have one single chart and not have to have, a ton of information there.
You can't do that with any other platform. Like, I've tried. That is really cool.
Unless you coded it in on some Pine script or Python code on your own, it's very unique to the platform, and it makes the whole process more efficient. because you're not having to split your screen. You can see how the shorter term price action is respecting the longer term moving average easily without having to really do anything. And this is another really cool thing about the alerts, right? Sure, the wick touched these areas 3 different times, but we didn't close there. So what you can do is when we create this alert, we can get these wicks, but we can also increase the sensitivity, and we would have been able to capture this area and this area when it tested that area as well, and then we bounced off each time. Mm-hmm. So this has been a big zone and alert area that I've been using on the platform before we really bounced to the upside. So there's a lot of things that you can use. It's not just raindrops, it's not just automated trend lines. It's a ton of different things all in one.
Yeah, man, that is the cool thing about Trendspider, right? They're trying to bring everything that you would want all into one place, and I certainly can appreciate that, and that's one of the reasons that I use it, right? The back testing, the raindrop charts, the multi-time frame analysis right there all on the screen. Hey, if you do anything looking at a chart, there's no reason you're not looking at Trendspider, honestly, because it's going to have all of the best features that none of the other platforms have right there on the screen already for you. So, Jake, that is too cool, man. Thanks for coming on the show and sharing that again with us today.
Hey, you're very welcome. Just a quick roadmap. You can see here we have a ton of things coming in the coming quarters. And so you can see, we have scanning capabilities coming. We have the ability to create watch list alerts, pattern recognition to find cup and handles, inverse head and shoulders. And we're working on new data feeds for international customers, as well as the ability to integrate your brokerage platform data into Trendspider and actually make the whole process on Trendspider so you can do everything. And there's an alert going off.
Oh, snap.
So, that's what we have coming. There's a ton of things still on the roadmap, and really appreciate. Oh, here we go. So we got within this area, and we got the alert. We didn't have to wait until we got to the trend line here. The wick, the 5-minute candle closed within this. This is the daily candle, but the wick on the 5-minute closed in, or the 5-minute candle closed in here, and that's how we got it.
Perfect. Well, that was great timing.
Absolutely. So it's really cool, and we're very excited to kind of see what's to come and all that good stuff.
Excellent. Well, Jake, again, thank you so much for coming on this show and sharing everything you have with us. And make sure you guys out there, whenever you're looking to put on a new trade, don't put on another trade without first checking out Trendspider. Trendspider.com. Use the code 10minute, 10minute, to get 20% off your entire first year. Trust me, whenever you start playing with this and seeing how robust Trendspider is, you'll see exactly why. It's one of the tools I use and tools that I recommend, and certainly something that I think you should as well. So, Jake, thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Hey, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me, and we look forward to doing hopefully another one of these soon.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, anytime we have these awesome features to share, I definitely want to get this out there for the audience. So thank you so much for coming on.
We'll definitely have some new stuff to talk about in the coming months. So I'm excited to talk about it on here. And thank you so much again for having us. And, Trendspider.com. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
And they've got a free trial, right?
We do. 7-day trial. And, if you feel that you need more time or anything like that, we're happy to extend that by a few days and help you out there too.
So you legitimately have nothing to lose. So go and check out Trendspider. Get your free 7-day trial. Make sure you put on the 10-minute code out there. That way you can check it out. And then when you feel like this is as incredible as it is, you'll get 20% off your first year. So there you go. That wraps up today's podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and enable notifications, if I can say it correctly. And make sure you go to Trendspider.com, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
Hey, did you realize that you could get the secret weapon that every investor needs right now to start changing your financial future for free? Yeah, that's right. Just head on over to TripleStockProfits.com and download your free Triple Stock Profit System ebook today. 10MinuteStockTrader.com content is for information and educational purposes only. It is not, nor is it intended to be, trading or investment advice or recommendation that any security, futures contract, options contract, transaction, or other financial instrument or strategy is suitable for any person. Trading securities can involve high risk and the potential for total loss of any funds invested. 10MinuteStockTrader.com and Christopher Uhl, through its content, financial programming, or otherwise, does not provide investment or financial advice or make investment recommendations. Investment information provided may not be suitable for all investors and is provided without respect to the individual investors and audience's financial sophistication, financial situation, investing time horizon, or risk tolerance. 10MinuteStockTrader.com and Christopher Uhl are not in the business of trading securities trades, nor does it direct client commodity accounts or give commodity trading advice, tailored to any particular client situation or investment objectives. 10MinuteStockTrader.com and Christopher Uhl are not licensed financial advisors, registered investment advisors, or registered broker-dealers. Stocks, options, futures options, and other financial instruments not included here involve risk and are not suitable for all investors. You alone are responsible for making your investment and financial trading decisions, and for evaluating the merits and risks associated with the use of any financial security and broker platform. For more information, please visit 10MinuteStockTrader.com/legal. Thanks for stopping by.